Hola and welcome to ProSpanish. In this video I'm going to condense down the quickest way to go from zero Spanish to having conversations. And if you like my videos, then don't forget to subscribe and comment on the video, as this really helps the channel to continue to grow. Right, so let's boil down what I think is the most effective process for learning Spanish. And this is born out of over 20 years teaching experience in schools, also teaching adults in adult education, and of course the more than 10 years that I've been refining and adding to my very popular all-in-one ProSpanish course. So step one is to focus on infinitive verbs. Infinitives are to-do words like to speak, to eat, to live. And the reason why we want to learn as many as we can of these early on is because A, they form the core of a language, and B, they're very easy to learn. So let's have a look at a few. Now, don't try to memorize these now. We've got estudiar, to study, comprobar, to check, evitar, notice the V is pronounced like a B in Spanish. Evitar is to avoid. You can remember that by thinking of evade. So evitar, to avoid. Encontrar is to find. Think of to encounter something. So encontrar, to find. And pedir, pedir is to order. And by the way, I'm not saying you must only learn a list of infinitives in the first stages of your learning. I'm saying the driving focus should be to learn as many of the top 100 verbs as you can, because this will really speed up your progress. Now, besides being the first step to speaking Spanish in this process, learning infinitives at an early stage will also accelerate your understanding, because a lot of what people say becomes much more guessable once you know the infinitives. And as I said, they are really easy and quick to learn. So let's say, for example, estudiar español. Estudiar español. So very easy to study Spanish. Estudiar español. But we might have estudiar matemáticas, to study maths or mathematics. With comprobar, to check, we could have comprobar la temperatura. Comprobar la temperatura, to check the temperature. Might be in a car, might be an oven. We could have comprobar el motor. El motor. So we're talking about cars, and we can just guess it's to check the motor. We'd probably say engine rather than motor, but it's all so much guessable once you've got the word comprobar. Comprobar. Comprobar el motor, to check the motor, to check the engine. Once we know evitar is to avoid, evitar, if we hear somebody talking about evitar el tráfico, we know they're talking about avoiding the traffic, to avoid the traffic. Evitar could be evitar problemas, to avoid problems, to avoid trouble. With encontrar, to find, we could have encontrar mi teléfono. Encontrar mi teléfono, to find my phone. Or encontrar mi pasaporte, to find my passport. So this really accelerates your ability to try and work out what people are saying before you're actually conversational. Pedir, to order. Pedir online. We know that's going to be to order online. Or pedir un café. Pedir un café, to order a coffee. Or pedir una Coca-Cola, to order a Coke. So that's the first step. Learn a lot of infinitives. And as I just mentioned, I don't mean to only learn infinitives. I mean that should be where your focus is initially. And our second step which you can learn alongside the first step, is to focus on starter verbs. So these are verbs that go before infinitives, before the to-do words. So for example, I want. So that can go before to avoid the traffic. I want to avoid the traffic. I want to find my passport. And once we've got this step, we're already speaking in sentences. So let's say let's focus on I want. I want is quiero. Quiero. And let's bring in two more of these starter verbs. So quiero, I want. I'm going to is voy a. Voy a. And we can even use different tenses. So we can have I tried, intenté, intenté. And this way we can introduce different tenses, we can speak in different tenses, but we don't need to learn all the different verb endings for the infinitives. Of course we want to do that eventually, but your initial mission should be to get the tools to speak Spanish, to have conversations. So let's bring back our infinitives from before. You might already remember some of them because of the way I presented them. So how would we say, I want to study Spanish? I want to study Spanish. I haven't got the word Spanish there. I just want you to try to have a little guess. How would you say, I want to study Spanish? Quiero estudiar español. Quiero estudiar español. I want to study Spanish. How about I want to avoid the traffic? What would that be? I want to avoid the traffic. Quiero evitar el tráfico. Quiero evitar el tráfico. So let's use to check. Now to check, comprobar. Can you remember what it was? To check the engine, to check the motor. What was that? It was comprobar el motor. Comprobar el motor, to check the engine, to check the motor. So how would you say, I'm going to check the engine? Voy a comprobar el motor. Voy a comprobar el motor. So you can see how just after a few minutes you're able to say very practical sentences. So what about, let's do a past one. So I tried to find. I tried to find. And let's add on if you can remember. It doesn't matter if you can't, but try to say, I tried to find my phone, my telephone. What would that be? And of course, at this stage, it doesn't matter if it doesn't sound perfect or you haven't got it 100% right. We're talking about communication. There'll be plenty of time for fluency and perfecting. Intenté encontrar mi teléfono. Intenté encontrar mi teléfono. And I've just used 3 starter verbs here. I want, I'm going to, I tried. But of course, there are so many more, and they're all quick to learn. You could have I hope to do, whatever it might be. I decided to go to the party. I'd love to do, whatever it might be. And just to note that this video is like a practical outline, a simplified, boiled down version of how to get conversational fast. Whereas in my all-in-one course, which incidentally you can download from prospanish.co.uk, the approach is embedded into a complete, structured, progressive course with loads of techniques to make the language stick and resources for listening and fluency, which actually includes our massively popular pyramids. And there are 600 of these included. So anyway, let's go on to step 3. So far we've got our infinitives and our kind of pre-infinitives, our starter verbs, and we've seen that we can already start making sentences like I want to avoid the traffic, etc. So in step 3, we learn the things that we can add to our infinitives. Things like it, them, me, you. So we can say things like, I'm going to order it, I'm going to order it online. Or I want to avoid them. We can add them. I want to avoid them. Now, normally, you wouldn't expect to be able to say a phrase like that within just a few lessons of learning Spanish, but that's how quickly you can progress. So let's do it now. The word for it is lo, L-O, lo, it. And we can just stick it on the end of our infinitive. So to find it is encontrarlo. The lo just sticks on, becomes part of the word. Encontrarlo, to find it. How would you say to order it? To order it, what would that be? Pedirlo, pedirlo, pedirlo. To check it. Actually, how about let's straight away make a sentence out of it. How would you say, I'm going to check it. I'm going to check it. Voy a comprobarlo. Voy a comprobarlo. And the word for them, well, them is just the plural. So we could say I want to find it, and in the plural, I want to find them. So them is just los. Los, we're just making a plural of lo. So lo is it, and los is them. And again, it just sticks on to the end of the verb, like encontrarlos, to find them. Encontrarlos. I want to find them. Quiero encontrarlos. How would you say to order them? Pedirlos, pedirlos. And to avoid them, what would that be? Evitarlos, evitarlos. And let's put that into a sentence in the past. How would you say, I tried to avoid them? What would that be? Intenté evitarlos. Intenté evitarlos. And of course, if you've spent time on your first step, you'll have so many infinitives that you can use this with. So you'd know words like keep. You'd be able to say, I want to keep them. Or let's say to send. I'm going to send them, or I'm going to send it. Now in our next step, we massively expand what we can say with a few simple changes to our infinitives, to our to-do words. So we can go from to order online to I order online, or we order, I don't know, the shopping online, or let's say the past, I avoided the traffic. And we can do that with a tweak to the to-do verbs, the infinitives. So let's say we want to say we do things. We live, we go, we order, we avoid. The easy to remember rule for we do something is that you take off the last letter, which is the R. All infinitive verbs end in R. You take off the last letter and add mos, M-O-S. That's all you do. So to study is estudiar. We study, take off the R and add mos, and you have estudiamos. Estudiamos español. We study Spanish. We're studying Spanish. So to order is pedir. How would you say we order? Pedimos. Pedimos. Take the R off, add mos. Pedimos. We order online. Pedimos online. Pedimos online. We order online. How would you say we avoid? Actually, let's go straight to we avoid the traffic. So we leave early and we avoid the traffic. What would that be? Evitamos el tráfico. Evitamos el tráfico. So, of course, going back to all of the infinitives that you're going to learn in step 1, we might have, let's say, to speak, hablar, hablar, to speak. Or we can go straight to we speak, hablamos, hablamos. We speak Spanish, hablamos español, hablamos español. And what do you think this means? No hablamos español, no hablamos español. Just add in no is we don't speak Spanish. No hablamos español. And so you can start to see there's a reason why my logo, my ProSpanish logo, is a puzzle. Because you can see how everything starts to fit into place like a puzzle, as long as we put the pieces together in the right sequence. So already in the first 4 steps, we've laid an incredibly solid foundation, a solid base. And in step 5, we can layer high-frequency vocabulary onto these foundations. So, for example, these time words. Today is hoy. Tomorrow, mañana. And yesterday, ayer. Ayer, yesterday. And let's just add one that's nothing to do with time. Let's go for algo. Algo is something. And I actually teach that word in the very first lesson because it's so useful and versatile, as you'll see in a moment. So let's look again at our infinitives and our starter verbs. How would you say, I'm going to study today? What would that be? I'm going to study today. Voy a estudiar hoy. Voy a estudiar hoy. And of course it could be voy a estudiar español hoy. And let's do a past one with I tried. How would you say, I tried to avoid the traffic yesterday? And again, don't worry if you can't remember the traffic, just do your best. I tried to avoid the traffic yesterday. What would that be? Intenté evitar el tráfico ayer. Intenté evitar el tráfico ayer. And how about, let's go to order. Can you remember how to say to order it? Can you remember how to add on it? It is just lo, so it's pedirlo, pedirlo. And let's actually use them. How do you say to order them? Pedirlos, pedirlos, to order them. How would you say, I tried to order them yesterday? What would that be? I tried to order them yesterday. Intenté pedirlos ayer. Intenté pedirlos ayer. And let's use something. How would you say, I'm going to check something? How would you say that? Oh, I just need to check something. I'm going to check something. Voy a comprobar algo. Voy a comprobar algo. I'm going to check something. So you can see, even with this boiled down version of the 5 steps, how quickly you can start having conversations in Spanish. And as I said earlier, there's of course so much more to my all-in-one course than just these steps. It's structured and progressive, so each lesson builds on what you already know. Previously taught language is constantly revisited so that it's not forgotten, which is what often happens in traditional courses. There's even a supplementary interactive module to learn the top 100 infinitive verbs as quickly as you can. So all of this is available from prospanish.co.uk. It can be downloaded exclusively from there. So that's prospanish.co.uk.